It's time for episode 288 of the 3 Point Podcast presented by the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Check out memorialhealthcare.org for everything they offer. And they have a special right now, 15% off for a new year membership. So definitely check them out. AZee Branding Solutions also on board. Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. We're going to have a special guest tonight as part of our prep spotlight. Travis Long, the head football coach of the Ovid-Elsie Marauders, will be joining us. But as we always do, we like to play a little catch up. I don't have a lot, but I think both you guys got something that we can chat about here briefly. Who wants to start?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, as for people watching and listening, one, I'm running off of my phone's hotspot. Don't got Wi-Fi in the new house yet, but I was moving this whole weekend, man. And every time I move, I always say, I'm like, this is the last time I'm doing it, man. I'm never doing it again. God, it freaking sucks. But this was the first time I actually hired a moving company. Two guys showed up, 2 men in the truck. What an impressive company that really is, and the work they do. They cleaned out my entire apartment and moved it into this house in 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's from the second they showed up to the second they were pulling out at the new location. That's a 15-minute drive away. I mean, they're dialed. They have all the right tools. They have a perfect system down where one guy's kind of the runner, the other guy's rapping and prepping everything. It's just an unbelievable setup. And I only paid I actually came in under budget from what the estimate was. Nice. It's like $500. Wow. I do have one quick question for you guys though. What would be the appropriate tip amount for that work? Do you guys tip your movers? That's what you should do, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think usually, you offer them drinks, stuff like that. But then, I don't know, a couple hours, I think a 20 each would be fair.
I was kind of thinking the same thing. And I'm so old.
So I realized I kind of overshot this a little bit. I didn't know. I honestly had no idea. I didn't have anyone to ask. I was calling my moving buddy who worked at a moving company for a couple of years. I don't know. Apparently I can't reach him. I don't know what's going on with him. So I gave him $150 for the two of them. So Ooh, I don't. That's very. As soon as I handed it to him, I was like, I don't think I should have gave you that much.
No,
just by their reaction. But I don't know. They did a great job. So I don't really regret it. But I guess maybe I should have thought that one out before I kind of did that. I kind of need as much money as I can get right now. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think a tip is fair. That might have for a couple hours of work. I mean, they made out. I mean,
I didn't know. I thought that was I thought that was the norm. Like I said, it was kind of. I'm not trying to brag or something. I feel I'm kind of bragging. That's not what his intention. It was more of me pointing out my stupidity. I didn't totally understand how much they.
I wouldn't say it's stupidity. Yeah, you're generous. You're happy to do it. More than probably we would have, but still.
Yeah. I was just happy that I have to do it myself, man. My last move a year ago at this time, I literally did every box, every piece of furniture. I did it all by myself, man. So I just said I'm never ever doing that again. So it was just awesome, man. It's cool being in the house. I mean, I'm never going back to the apartment life, man. Knock on wood.
Yeah. I mean, having moved as many times as I have, I feel like paying movers is just part of the budget. Like you said, you kind of budget it into the move because you might do a carload or two of your own stuff, but otherwise anything big, beds, couches, and appliances, I don't want anything to do with it. Also, I'm not asking any of my friends to come over. Right. When you're 20, it's like, a case of beer and some pizza and, help me move. No, that doesn't work anymore when you're a grown adult, no one wants to be lugging stuff up and down stairs. And like you said, they've got it down to a system. They've got the right straps to get stuff on their back. Like you said, they wrap everything up really well. Also, it's nice because if they mess something up, it's on them. So like if they dent your washer or, break some of your dishes or something, in theory, it's covered by the contract that you sign. Hopefully you do that. So paying movers is the best thing possible about a move. But
I mean, $500. I thought that was no,
that's not bad.
When I was gonna do it, I was like, this is probably $1,500. No. $500. That's nothing. That's what I mean. Why did I ever do that shit by myself in the first place? Man?
Did you say that they packed up the stuff at your apartment and then moved?
I just put it in boxes. Okay. I threw it in boxes, and and they did the rest.
Nice.
Put it right where I wanted. You feel pretty badass. Yeah, put that there, put that here. that goes upstairs, that goes here. What an experience, man. It was awesome.
That might have saved a little bit of the cost, because a lot of times I'm almost surprised that they did that, because a lot of times movers won't move stuff like that, because if you packed it and they move the box and something breaks in the box, they would say like, hey, we didn't pack it, so I don't know what happened. So usually they're like, do not touch anything. We're packing everything, and we're moving it all.
I wanted to I grabbed a few boxes here and there just because it's like I felt like I'm like, man, I feel like a kind of a jerk just sitting here watching these guys. I mean, I get I'm paying them for it, but it's like you got two guys like throwing a freaking giant like TV stand that holds like a 70-inch TV on their backs and like walking. Like I'm just like, I just feel horrible. I feel like I should help these guys, but
Now before we get to Matt, the big question everybody wants to know: is there a washer and dryer at the new pad?
There is. I've already used it numerous times. I actually had the pleasant thought to myself. I was like, man, you know, I've got a few pieces of dirty clothes. I'm just going to throw them in the wash. I'm just going to go throw them in the wash. It's magical. There's nothing to it. Just like your home, man.
The life of luxury, your own washer and dryer. It is a big deal, you know, when you've got one in your own house.
Absolutely.
It's nice to have.
Now, Matt, I know you had a big milestone recently. Your daughter Claire just celebrated a birthday. You had some fun doings there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, her official birthday is tomorrow. We're recording on Monday. Her birthday's on Tuesday, but she had a birthday party yesterday. Jared, you maybe haven't had to or got to experience this yet. Ted, you maybe not either, because these are kind of a fairly new thing.
Oh boy!
But these trampoline parks.
No, I haven't.
It's a huge warehouse, basically just full. You remember Slam Ball? That thing that was on ESPN. It's basically that, but just trampolines everywhere and foam pits and just a huge. It's a super cool thing. Something I would have just absolutely loved as a kid.
Heaven.
And I'm telling you, man, kids go crazy at these things. So she had her birthday party at one of these trampoline parks. Her and 8 of her friends. And they basically get to jump for like an hour and a half, and then they get pizza and, cupcakes and stuff. And
perfect.
I mean, it's like you can't track them down. I'm like trying to walk around and try and get pictures, and, my wife was there and the moms were like off talking and stuff like that. I'm just like trying to document the thing, and they're just jumping all over the place, flipping and laughing and going crazy. And I'm just thinking, I would have loved this as a kid, but yeah, it was cool to see, her have fun with her friends. My parents are in town, so they got to see it too. So she's getting spoiled all weekend by her grandparents. She got to have a birthday party. She's having a great birthday weekend, but it's crazy. Oh, yeah. She's already 8. Goes fast.
I shouldn't have experienced a Sky Zone or the trampoline park. Yeah. I have actually.
Oh, okay.
My junior year, right before the basketball season started, our coach surprised us with a trip to Grand Rapids and to the Sky Zone. We got there like, what are we doing here? I think we were like 17, 18 years old. It's like a bunch of 10-year-olds running around. Right. We get into like this dodgeball match, and that's when you realize you're kind of out of your skis a little bit. Kids are doing flips and like whipping dodgeballs at you, like as they're flipping around, and they had a certain way that they could hold the ball that gave it like side spins. So like we got basically picked off by a bunch of 10-year-olds. But one thing I saw, you guys were like painting a rock. It almost looked like a rock that was like you would see on East Lansing campus. What was that?
Yeah, so her school, and actually like every school down here in Charlotte has these. I'm surprised more don't, because it's a great idea. So it's just a huge rock, just picture the huge rock that are in front of farms or, in front of other businesses, and you pay $10 and the money goes to the PTO, the school's PTO. Nice. It's a fundraiser, and you get to paint it for, you book the date that you want, and then you can paint it. It's usually birthdays. I guess you could probably do it for any event that you want, but usually birthdays. So yeah, you reserve it, $10, you go paint it, happy birthday, do whatever you want. And then your kid goes to school, gets to see it. It's fun, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool. We enjoy painting it ourselves. We are not artists, but it's fun to do. There's people that get paid to do that because it's such a big deal down here.
Right.
But a lot of parents will pay people to go paint it. But my wife and I are it's part of the fun. Let's go paint it and get a bunch of spray paint and stuff like that and see what we come up with. But yeah, it's really cool. She loves it too. Seeing her name on the rock at her school.
That's awesome. Well, she's at such a good age, 8 years old doing that stuff. I mean, Those are lifetime memories, especially, you have pictures and videos of it that she'll look back at down the road. That's awesome.
Yep.
That is incredible. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't really have anything. So let's move on to the prep spotlight. Let's jump into the prep spotlight, brought to you by Jacobs Insurance Agency. And we're going to be talking with Travis Long, the head coach of the Ovid-Elsie Marauders, right after this.
Check out the Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center in the Now building on the campus of Memorial Healthcare. Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center includes locker rooms, private showers, steam rooms, a sauna, a lap pool, and more, including a raised track for walking and running with views of the entire Memorial campus and surrounding area. Personally, I love it, man. Sunday, Saturday morning, get in there, get a good workout in, hit the sauna up, and I also do the steam room. So it's a perfect spot. I mean, I think it's only $12 for a day pass, but for those of you who are looking to join for a winter membership, it's up to 15% off for your membership when it's paid in full. Memorial Healthcare strives to bring healthcare and wellness together, servicing patient needs from diagnosis to treatment to rehab and beyond. For more details, go online at www.memorialhealthcare.org or call 989-720-CARE. That's 989-720-2273.
Well, on the Prep Spotlight, brought to you by Jacobs Insurance, we got another special high school coaching guest. We have Travis Long, the head coach of the Ovid-Elsie Marauders. They've won a couple of games, won the district championship. Now in his 14th year at Ovid-Elsie, has a nice winning record over there. And coach, it's kind of like flashbacks to the old sports forum program we used to chat every week. Ovid-Elsie football. Welcome to the podcast. I understand it's your first podcast, so we're glad to have you on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's kind of cool. I've never done one of these, and so I don't really listen to podcasts a whole lot, so I don't know much about them. I guess I have to get into it. I got to get with the now.
Well, Well, if you know the sports forum, this is almost like the new age sports forum.
Exactly.
I guess if you want to describe it that way.
Yeah, once word gets out on social media, you'll be hearing from a bunch of Ovid-Elsie fans that they heard your comments here tonight. So make sure you talk good about all the players.
All right, I will for sure.
All right. Well, again, congratulations. It seems to be year in and year out, a lot of success over there. Let me start out with, I said you were in your 14th year. Was your first year as head coach, you took over for Jerry Goosen, or was there a coach or two in between?
Yeah, I was an assistant for Jerry, and then he got out of it, and after that 2009 season with Chris Robinson, and then I took over. So I've been there ever since.
Well, it seems like you're in the playoffs every year, and this year, coming out of the MMAC, pretty tough league with New Lothrop and Chesaning having outstanding seasons. You came into the playoffs at 5-4, but you're playing some of your best football right now. You won your last 4 games, and you look pretty impressive, obviously, against Lansing Catholic last week. Tell us about the team a little bit in general, but mostly what kind of turned things around to where you're playing your best football here at the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, we came into the season pretty high on this squad. The seniors, there's not very many seniors on the team, but a lot of juniors that are pretty talented and played last year for us on our, we won one game last year in the playoffs. So we were pretty excited. And then in fall camp right away, the injury bug hit us and we lost 3 of our starting linemen. Went into Portland with a kid that have never played guard before. 2 kids have never played guard before. A center who was, untested, and they kind of took it to us. So kind of battling the injury bug, and with us being so young, we made some mistakes early on, and we were always in our games that we lost. The Chesaning game we were in right till the end, and New Lothrop we lost by 1. So in the Montrose game, they kind of jumped on us real quick, and then we had to battle back and kind of just ran out of time there. So we started to get some guys back health wise, and the boys are buying in, and they're a very confident group right now. So we're playing our best ball at the right time, and they're just they're clicking.
Yeah, you talk about the boys buying in. Ovid-Elsie basically since about 2005 have basically made the playoffs every year for the most part, maybe a year or two that you guys didn't make the playoffs. But so I graduated in the early 2000s, and not trying to sugarcoat anything, Ovid-Elsie was in a much different spot, the program, back when I played than it is now. For the people who maybe don't know as much about the Marauders and don't know about this run that you guys are on with all this success and, the playoff and with your players buying in, talk about maybe what it's taken to shape the program and almost rebuild the program. Really now you guys have been on a roll for a good 15, 18 years.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest thing is we got a new weight room around that time. Our weight room, I played at Ovid-Elsie in late 90s, and our weight room was a closet, and we had 2 benches, 2 squat racks, and a multi-purpose machine in the middle. And then our community
sounds about like Corunna, to be honest with you.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah, so we had some kids that wanted to, work out, and I got hired in about 2005 and started helping out with the weight program, and Goosen was the head coach and I was his assistant. So, and we've had great kids come through that want to work hard and want to do great things. And so, I would say the weight room is one of the biggest things. And, we've had great community support over the years, and families that, get these kids out and doing sports. And I think it's kind of our whole sports program the last few years, we started this after school lifting program where, it's not just football kids anymore. And, I can't take credit for that. That's our athletic directors that have been in charge of that. And I kind of stepped away from running the weight room and just helped out. And so, we've had good girls sports last few years, and basketball and soccer. And, our volleyball team is playing for a regional championship tomorrow night. So it's kind of a culture thing now.
Let me just say, this is kind of on behalf of all of Shiawassee County. Thank you for beating Lansing Catholic last Friday. I mean, we were talking about it leading up to your guys' game last Friday, is how they pretty much beat every single Shiawassee County team. I think they have an undefeated record, and they beat them all by about a combined 800 points. So first off, how good did it feel to kind of beat that team? And then secondly, how were you guys able to do it after? Because, that's a team that you guys have kind of played year in, year out throughout the course of your guys' career, and you guys lost them last year in playoffs. How are you guys able to get back on track this year and beat them?
Well, Lansing Catholic's a great program, and Coach Jim Baker's got, good kids. And I felt like, watching the film this year, the scout film on them, that, we were very confident going into the game. So running the ball, we've been able to run the ball not as effectively as we've been in the past because of all the injuries to our offensive line. We got our left guard is 5'4", and he's going to wrestle 135 pounds, and he's tougher than nail crap. So, and then our right guard has never played offensive line, up until like the first week of, the season. So, we were really clicking running the ball against Lansing Catholic. We were, we won the line of scrimmage. We didn't make the mistakes that we were making early on with penalties and turnovers and things like that. So, our quarterback Trice is a dynamic player. I don't know if you guys have seen him play.
Oh yeah.
But it's like one game, our Standish Sterling game, he throws for 300 yards because we couldn't run the ball, and then the last 2 games we've been able to be a little bit more balanced. And in this Lansing Catholic game, we were just able to run it right at them, especially in the second half.
Well, listeners to this podcast know, and you would know if you listened to us. So now you got to be a regular listener.
Yeah, I will.
every single week we have our prep spotlight, and when we talk about the Ovid-Elsie Marauders football game, who do I talk about leading off every game?
It's Trice Tokar.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we're well aware of Trice. I saw what he did against Corunna last year. I mean, that was an impressive comeback win. But, let's talk about some of the players on your team. Let's start with Tokar and maybe some of the other key players, that people out there are going to want to see this coming weekend.
Yeah. So Trice, a junior, he's not very big. He might be 5'7", 5'8", and 140 pounds. But man, does he have a heart of a lion?
Mm-hmm.
He's probably a better receiver, actually.
Really?
And but with we lost our quarterback last year, so he was thrown in there, and he's a great athlete. If you guys know anything about him, he's a 2-time state champion in pole vault.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And if you ever met a competitor, I don't think I've had a more competitive player as a head coach than Trice Tokar. Talking about other guys, our offensive line, Cole Workman is our left guard. He's that young small wrestler, but he's tough as nails, and he also doubles up as nose guard. Just makes plays in the backfield, small and quick, and plays with great leverage.
That's what wrestling does. I mean, you see that a lot of times in college now. Coaches will go recruit wrestlers to play defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, we've had quite a few over the years. Max Spiess was a state qualifying wrestler a couple of years ago, and he was our nose guard. And they're not very big guys, but they're quick and they know how to get under people, and they're kind of like a menace. I'm sure the opponents are like, oh, we got to block this guy,
right?
So, last week's game, Clayton Frucci, our tailback, really stepped up. I think he had about 130, yards or so like that, and 3 touchdowns, and that's the best game he's played all year. He was up as a sophomore, but he broke his collarbone pretty severely against Portland in week 1 last year. So we've kind of been waiting for him to turn on the jets, and he's been stepping up. So. Jamison Custer's another player that plays both sides of the ball. Number 7, he's a quiet kid, but he's one of our captains. He just leads by example. Really good in the pass game. He's the one that caught that 52-yard pass. I think it was the first play in the third quarter on offense for us that Coach Longstreth drew up, and so he's a leader. Our offensive line has been pretty steady this year. Jake Bowen, Braxton O'Brien as a sophomore playing left tackle. He's going to be special. Ben Wilds is that guard that was thrown in like the scrimmage week. Like, here, Ben, learn guard, and he's taken it. Joe Bancroft was the one injured early on, and he's back. He's playing center. And then our other center who played most of the year, he got a concussion, I think against New Lothrop, and he's been out ever since. We're hoping to get him back either this week, and if we play next week, or when we play next week, he's been pretty good. Trey Milner, he's a wrestler too. So,
well, you're talking about wrestlers and you're talking about the quickness up front. While we're still on this topic, I saw last week it was a sack race. I mean, you had 6 sacks defensively. Must have been putting all kinds of pressure on the Lansing Catholic quarterback. That defensive line and linebacking crew must be pretty decent.
Yeah. Cole Workman is right there at nose guard, and then Cohen Brown has been playing some defensive end for us this year, and he had a nice game. Another kid that kind of surprised us this year is number 79, Brady Risinger.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a diamond in a rough. Like, we didn't expect anything from Brady this year. And all of a sudden, like, I think it was week 5, he was on the scout team, and we couldn't block him, and he's one of those kids, like, we don't want our starters hurt and banged up, right, but he's doing so well, you can't get after him. You got to get after the starter. So, after that week, we threw him in there, and he's been playing some defensive end for us and doing real good. And Jake Bowen, Braxton O'Brien have been playing real well at the tackles. So yeah, we've last couple of weeks we played some pretty good D.
Yeah. When you're listing these players, you're listing a bunch of sophomores, juniors, and you already mentioned that your team is young. So I know you're not already looking past this season, but it sounds like you got a little something going that might stick around here for a couple of years. And speaking about a team that is always in the playoffs year after year, your opponent coming up this week, Constantine, seems like they're in the playoffs. I mean, every year making a run to Ford Field or at least the semis. I mean, just a very good program. What are you kind of preaching to your guys this week? Is it just stay the course, do what we've done all week, or, kind of what's your kind of game plan heading into a huge regional matchup?
Yeah. In talking with the kids today after they've watched film and we've given them the game plan, like I said, we're confident. We're a confident group right now. We showed them a little film today, and Constantine runs this wing T offense, and we've seen that against Ida. We've seen it against Durand, and we've done very well against that. But I think Constantine presents a different another level. They're big, they're physical, they play angry. So it's going to be a challenge, but I think our boys are they're, like I said, they're confident, and that's great to see.
I just wanted one last question for me, Coach. There's something I kind of found out today, and I appreciate you answering my first question. It was basically nonsense, but you answered it like a pro, so I appreciate that. But one thing I realized today, I was looking at Michigan-football.com, one of the best sites out there, is that you guys have been playing Portland week 1, basically for as long as you guys have been a program, since 1966, as far as I saw. What do you appreciate about that tradition of playing them week 1, and how awesome is it kind of getting that great test every single year, that first game of the season?
Well, I'll tell you what, after the game, it doesn't feel too good because I haven't had any success against those guys. So,
but you guys play them tougher than I think most Shiawassee County schools normally do, in my opinion.
Yeah. They're a different cat. I mean, they have so many athletes, and they're well coached, and they're physical, and year in and year out, if we got an experienced team, we're in the game, and then another year we're young and we're still trying to find ourselves, like this year, and they just take it to us. So it's kind of a measuring stick game. We can kind of tell what we got after that game, but the loss after the game, it kind of hurts.
Yeah.
Right.
Going 0-1 every year.
I got one final question for you, Coach. You got a Saturday matchup. We all love the Friday night lights, but you're going to be playing 1:00 Saturday afternoon. It definitely, if the last Friday night didn't have a playoff atmosphere, this certainly will. This is going to be big time. Do you enjoy playing the Saturday games? Would you rather play Friday night? And is there any different approach that extra day?
Well, I'm a little inexperienced with these Saturday games. This is my first one since I was an assistant coach, for Goosen. Right. So it's a different feel. We've had an extra day. We gave the kids kind of a day off today, even though we met with them just for a little bit. So tomorrow's our Monday, and then we'll go through the week like we usually do. So we're excited. We're going to get up early Saturday morning, get them breakfast, go through a walkthrough, and then get on the bus and travel down there and see what we can do.
All right. Well, I tell you what, we appreciate the time. Like I said, it's like old time's sake talking with you, talking Marauder football. We've been keeping a close eye on the Marauders. You got a big test, but I'm sure everybody will show up to go support the Marauders. I mean, there probably won't be anybody left in the Ovid-Elsie area. So best of luck from us. And, you have had a great season so far. Keep it rolling.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on.
All right, Travis.
Good luck.
Thanks a lot, man.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcasts, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
All right, great stuff there with head coach Travis Long, but we should talk about some of the other football squads in our area that are doing very well. And of course, let's start right off with the Corunna Cavaliers, a big win to improve to 11-0 for the first time in school history, 28-17 over Pontiac Notre Dame Prep. I mean, the game came in, we came into the game with a lot of hype, and I think the game lived up to the hype. I was up in the booth. Jared, you were down in the field. Why don't you give your perspective on some of the hitting and how you saw it down there?
Yeah, I mean, this Corunna team, man, it's as advertised. I mean, it's kind of like we've been talking about, man. You pinch yourself. It's a once in a lifetime season for a Corunna. It's kind of got me thinking, man, imagine being like a fan or an alumni of like Cass Tech or something like that, where this is just every year. You're going for state titles every single year. I mean, they're spoiled, but what a great team this is. My favorite part about this team, man, is how athletic they are. You know, you think about a Corunna team and like how I would always picture it when I was a kid, when they'd finally make that push to Fort Field. You'd imagine a team with a great offensive line, like wing T style team, almost take the air out of the football. They're the opposite. I mean, I think they're going to have the best athletes on the field against any team they play the rest of the way. And so far this season, that's been the case. So they are loaded. I mean, obviously it starts with Wyatt and Tarek. They're both very, very good. Wyatt, a very, very good quarterback. Tough kid. I mean, he took a lot of big shots in that game, and Notre Dame Prep seemed like their strategy was, we're just going to send the house almost every play on these passing downs. So he took a lot of shots, but made some good throws, key throws. But some of the key things I noticed, man, I mean, it's not just them. I mean, Jaden Eddington, he's the kind of the guy that kind of bounced off the screen or the field to me down on the sidelines. I mean, he's about 5'10", 5'11", would you say? And 200 pounds of pretty much pure muscle. And he plays like a man possessed. I mean, you can't take your eyes off of him. I mean, he's a great linebacker and a great running back too. Same thing with another great linebacker they have is Zeman. Ted, what's his name? Dane Zeman, is that right?
Dane the Demon Zeman.
I mean, him and Eddington, and throw in Jaden Eddington's younger brother Bryce that he did, who plays kind of like almost like a Sandra Still nickel, kind of rover type position. I mean, they are tough and they can move. And I'm just gonna throw a few more guys out there that I noticed just down there watching. I mean, Alan Merva, Austin Oginski, AJ Brieger, 3 really good linemen that I mean, they got better and better as that game went along. At first, the first few drives, you're like, oh man, they might really struggle against this kind of pressure that Notre Dame Prep was bringing, but they got better and better as the game went on. And I mean, Alan Merva literally pancaked a kid about 3 feet in front of me. And I love that, man. That's so you can't get up in the booth, but you get down on the sideline. So, I mean, this team is great. I mean, what an awesome game it was. What an environment. They have the horses, man. Now let's just see if they can keep steady, keep the pace, and just keep doing what they're doing, man.
Game at a time.
Yep, game at a time. And, you know, we obviously were hyping the game up like crazy, but the game was hyped up all over. Anyone who covers high school football in Michigan, this was one of the ones last week that was being noted all over the place. Friend of the pod, Goose Poop, all of his computer models actually had Corunna as the underdog. So I don't know, going off of those metrics, if Corunna actually pulled the upset, but you know, I think we were all, it was almost to me like talking, whether with you guys or even friends still in the area who, you know, have been following this team and following the program, you know, forever. It almost felt like a coin flip type of game. We talked about it last week that top to bottom, I mean, everything you just laid out, Jared, Corunna has a very complete roster, but so does Notre Dame Prep. And
they're a good team.
Yeah.
Very good team, very good high school team, you know, just a solid, good quarterback, good athletes, all that kind of stuff. But we mentioned that it might come down to quarterback play, but then also which team doesn't turn the ball over.
Right.
And Corunna forced turnovers and 2 or 3 fumbles that,
two fumbles. Yeah.
2 fumbles lost, 1 at the end of the game, very critical. And Corunna forced some drops. You know, we talked about their quarterback, Jacob Tuttle, basically hadn't thrown an incompletion all season. And going off the broadcast, I mean, it sounded like some big drops by Notre Dame Prep.
There was.
To the credit of Corunna's pressure, how physical Corunna was playing and everything like that. So it's one of those things where, when you look back at the tape, I almost bet Notre Dame Prep's looking back on this and saying they lost to a great team. I mean, tip your cap, lost to a very, very good team, as you just laid out, Jared, Ted, too. But also they might look back and say, like, we kind of almost gave this one away in a sense with the turnovers that they hadn't really done all year and the drops. I'm not taking anything away from Corunna. I'm just saying, like, from Notre Dame Prep's side, they might be saying, like, man, we turned the ball over. We had some big drops. If we played a cleaner game, maybe it would have came out differently. But I think everything you said, Jared, is spot on. If people weren't buying into our hype 3 or 4 weeks into the season on the Corunna hype train, I think everyone's buying in now. If you're not, then you might want to be in a few weeks when they're playing in Ford Field. I don't want to get ahead of it. But.
Don't get ahead. Don't knock on wood.
We can, Ted. I mean, we can, man. I mean, we're not on the staff. I guess maybe we are, like, we're rat poison, as Nick Saban would say. But,
don't want to be rat poison.
No.
Well, like, I mean, the thing that I kind of realized watching this game, man, is we talk so much about how this team offensively, and obviously we see the defensive stats, but when you really see kind of how this defense is put together, I don't see a team scoring more than 21 points on them all year. I mean, obviously that'll probably be a big test come Ford Field. I mean, when you have, the 2 Bauer bros on the back end at safety position, then you have those 3 linebackers that I named off that all are very tough and cover the sideline to sideline. I just don't see a lot of teams scoring on them, man. It's crazy to see a Corunna team doing this. I mean, it's kind of the same sort of pride we get watching Michigan just bludgeon teams.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's been like this year, Ted. I mean, you've seen every game. I mean, is it just you're walking out of the stadium every week, head held high, can't wait for the next one to come around next Friday? I mean, that's what it feels like.
It's 100%. I agree with you, and it's, even though I've hedged my bet and said I'm semi-retired, I had all intentions all year long to follow a Corunna, right? It's just worked out perfectly for me. It's magical because I'm out of here after the football season, one way or the other. I'll fill in as needed. I'll probably, like I said, sit in on Corunna Wasso football game every year, but that's it. And this couldn't have worked out any better for me. And Matt, back to the game for just 1 second. That's why you have to really concentrate on not doing what Notre Dame did. You got to hang on to the ball. You got to catch the ball. Yeah. And we didn't even talk about the fact, I think one of the key plays in the game was when Corunna stopped them on 4th down in the red zone early in the game, kind of gave them a momentum change there. And they came right down and scored. I think they scored after that drive on a long pass to Tarek, I think. But I know they followed that up, that stand with a touchdown that really gave them, I think, the confidence to just move forward and keep rolling in that game. So it was very impressive.
It was. And I listened. So I listened to the call. And again, we're not, Ted, this. You've been calling sports radio in the area for 175 years. You have to be good at it. If you've done it this long, you got to know what you're doing. You guys really do. Casey, Bart, and yourself. Maybe more for Corunna fans or maybe more for people, but you guys paint the picture. I felt like I was at Nick and East Field. I felt like I was standing right next to Jared, right on the sidelines. You guys do a really good job. I mean, you call a good game. Casey has stepped right in on the play-by-play, and he does a really good job. You don't feel like you're missing the action. I know you guys were struggling with Notre Dame Prep's numbers on the jerseys a little bit, a couple times.
They had sharp uniforms, man. Those were sharp.
It is
close and personal, but from the press box, you couldn't read those numbers, man.
Yeah. But one thing I was going to say, so I when I found out, I knew you guys were going to have Kyle Clough, my friend and classmate on at halftime. So I definitely wanted to stick around and listen to that. A really, really cool interview with him too. One thing that stood out that he said was that you can tell this team legitimately believes that they belong at Ford Field. I'm not saying verbatim, but this is basically what he said. And for, you were asking him about the 2002 team, and he was kind of saying he didn't know if we truly believed that we would have been at Ford Field. As the season went on, we started to feel more and more like, man, we're pretty good. We're good. Mm-hmm. And then, once we went up against South Christian, maybe that's something that kind of backfired on us. I think that's something that stands out, even me from afar, listening to you guys who watch them, listening to the radio calls, listening to the interviews, all the media that are interviewing the players, when we talk to Coach Herrick, texting with Coach Herrick, just all, from afar, everything that I see. this team believes, and you can
They
tell
do.
even when they went down 7-0 against Hamady, even when they went down against Notre Dame Prep, even when Notre Dame Prep came out of halftime, tied it up almost immediately.
Yep.
You can almost tell that, I bet they look at each other on the sidelines, especially, when you got twins who've been playing football with each other their whole lives, and the rest of the team, they've been playing football with each other since, they were little tykes running around, with helmets that are bigger than their bodies. They just believe. They know they can do it.
Yeah.
And, I think kind of like to Jared's point with the athletes, how good they are. I think they can look around and look at Jaden and say, let's go, turn it up. This is your time, and you can look at Wyatt and say, we got to go win this thing. And they truly believe. And I think that, that comes out over the radio, you know what I mean? Like, and when we talk to Coach Eric and everything like that too. So
Sure.
I think that's huge. And even more so now, I'm sure going into this game, they were 100% confident, but I think they probably were like, this is probably going to be our best test of the season. Yeah. Now they're probably like, hopefully not overconfident, but now I think it's full on belief. We're the real deal.
No question.
One other kid I just want to throw out real quick, just to give him his praise, Parker Isham.
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of myself in a way, where when he was a kid, he was kind of, was a little bit pudgier or whatever. And then as soon as he gets to high school and gets in a good weightlifting program, gets kind of matures a little bit.
Right.
Is a really good looking athlete. He had a big time run on a perfectly dialed up counter play in the was it the first or second quarter?
Yeah.
Sprung him for about 50 or 60 yards.
Yeah.
So that was a big time play to kind of shift the momentum, because everything was going Notre Dame Prep's way up until he made that big play. So I just want to throw him out there.
Yeah, he's part of a good 1-2 punch with him and Jaden Eddington for sure. Right now they definitely look good, and they got to take care of business now. They got the big game coming up with Lutheran North, and that's another home game. After starting off the year 5 road games, it's been home cooking all the rest of the way, and that's not a bad way to go.
It's awesome too. You talking about all these home games. I got to be honest, man, when I was, just in general, wanting, like you said, to like, you're trying to retire, but a team like this, and Jared, you said once in a lifetime type of thing for the Corunna community, I definitely contemplated multiple times flying back, just finding some cheap flight that I could get there, and get to these games.
Heck yeah.
And then especially one like this one, when I found out a bunch of my buddies from, back in 2002 were going to be there. I knew, like some older guys, even older than me. Jared, you're talking about you're going, some of your friends and stuff like that. And then when I found out, I think it's such a cool thing when something like this happens, let the former players stand on the sidelines. I think that's really cool. Not get up in the huddles and stuff like that, but let them be down there. Because we were out there too. We were out there too playing. So I think that's a really cool community thing. So when I heard all that stuff, it was one of those things like, and one of my sisters went to the game and she was sending videos of like the crowd roaring after touchdowns. And then obviously listening to your guys' radio call. It is such a cool thing for this community. It honestly makes me like almost a little jealous of you guys getting to see it in person.
Well, Matt, let's say, I know Ted, you're going to say, well, don't when we get a time, but let's say they make it to Ford Field. What are you going to do, man?
Gotta go.
It seems like that's, you almost got to make it back.
Yeah, I'm there. I told my buddies, I said, they beat Notre Dame Prep. I'm booking the flight to Ford Field on that day, but no, I will be there if they make it to Ford Field, because that is even more legitimately a once in a lifetime thing for Corunna fans. So I'm just saying that I think it's something, Jared, you're probably starting, to get to the age where you're looking back and realizing these things. I think these players, they seem mature enough that they're probably, they know what they're doing right now. But I think it's something when they get a little older, they will really look back on this and be like, I've said once in a lifetime 5 times already. It's a once in a lifetime thing that they're going through right now. The memories that they're making and everything like that. Like it's just such a cool thing. And it's unique. Corunna is a cool community. Yeah, it's small. Yeah, it's not Cass-Tech, like you said. It's not Belleville. It's not some of these Rockford, some of these other big Grand Rapids schools. It is unique. Corunna is a small community.
Right.
But man, for a team like this, they show up.
Yeah.
One thing I just want to say that's kind of funny that I made note of when I re-listened to your guys' broadcast, Ted. I noticed that when Kyle Clough ended his interview, you said without a doubt he's the best quarterback you'd seen at Corunna since since Wyatt. I just thought that was funny. I made note of it.
I'm glad you made note of it.
He said on the pod before that he can't say you because of the family
Exactly.
bias. So
Right.
Listen, maybe when a few drinks or so, if we, maybe after the Ford Field victory, maybe we can rehash. I did a little digging on the 2002 team and some of the opponents you guys were playing and some of the amount of points that were scored. But like I said, we'll save that debate off the pod for another time.
Hey, I mean, it was a different time too. Like I said, like Ovid-Elsie wasn't good back then. Now they are. Hazlitt was really good back then. I'd be fine going through all this.
No.
Listen,
this group, our teams suck compared to this team. So
taking nothing away from your team, Matt, your team, Jared, any of the other teams out there that were great. This team has stamped themselves 11-0, and nobody else has done that. That's simple as that.
You guys were saying, I think Ted, we texted a little bit about it, and we talked about it. This was a legacy type of thing because I think they still would have been probably the best team ever had they somehow lost that game. But Corunna's never been to 11 wins. Right. So say they somehow lost that game and were just another 10-1 team, another Corunna team that couldn't get their way out of the district. That would have been okay. They broke a ton of records.
Then it's open for debate, though.
Then it's open for debate.
It was a must-win game. It was a must-win game, 100%. In my opinion, for their
for their legacy.
I feel like a loser saying this for their legacy. It was a must-win game. It really was.
Yes. It was, and they took care of business against a very good team too.
It was. I will like Tuttle. He was a good quarterback, man.
Yes, he was.
You can tell when a kid is just kind of predetermining where he's going with the ball once the ball is snapped. He was making reads. I mean, like I said, Matt, it was the drops that were killing them on offense. But I was really impressed with him at quarterback. He's a good little player, and I've heard he's a really good basketball player as well.
Yeah. Before we wrap this segment, I think enough of Corunna. We'll keep talking about them every week as long as they stay alive. But Chesaning, a little bit surprised by the score, 49-21 to Bullock Creek. A couple of former MMB schools. Max Volk had 175 yards and a couple TD passes. Braden Florian, 88 yards and a TD. He's a stud back and finished the year with 2,010 yards. I'm not sure. That might be the largest rushing total of any back in the state. I'm not 100% sure on that, but over 2,000 yards, pretty impressive.
Yeah, he did that without a 14-game season. That's impressive, man. I don't care who you're playing. That's impressive.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you guys caught the story on the New Lothrop game. I mean, they lose 29-28. Joe Dawes of Ithaca kicked a 36-yard field goal with 8 seconds left for the Yellow Jackets. Tough loss for the Hornets. Just reading some of the stuff on the quotes by Coach Galvis, it didn't sound like he was too satisfied with some of the calls and some of what went on, but still an outstanding season for the Hornets and a tough way to lose. What a great matchup. If I wasn't at the Corunna game, that was the game I was at for sure.
Yeah.
That's a game if I would have told you at the start of the season they're going to be playing in districts, you would have said 99% chance we're there, probably.
Book it. Yeah, you're right.
I heard basically from what I heard, like you said, I was kind of reading some of those press clippings as well, maybe some questionable calls down the stretch. But I mean, they lost their starting quarterback in the third quarter.
That too.
Once that happens, they definitely seem like they might have been the better team of that game, but happens, man.
It happens, and taking nothing away from Ithaca, they got a hell of a program. Finally, wrapping up, Wasso girls cross country finished 13 in the D2 finals at MIS, and then back to Corunna. I just thought this was kind of cool. We're talking prep spotlight, but Corunna High School's Amara Jackson was named the National FFA President. That's pretty impressive right there. Future Farmers of America. She's the national president. That's an outstanding achievement.
It's almost one of those things like the OM school or the OM teams winning world championships. Right. You almost don't know how to grasp that.
I know.
She's the national president of the FFA. That's pretty awesome.
We have a FFA powerhouse, man. If it was like an alternate universe where it was televised and it had the same amount of press following it, like Corunna football does, or like football does, then we'd probably be talking about them every week.
Yeah, I think I told you guys this story. This was back when Jessica was a senior in school, and she might have been a junior, and she was part of FFA, and she went to the national convention with the rest of the Corunna FFA members, and I was on a sales trip in Louisville. And I thought I'd surprise her and take her out to lunch. So I showed up at the convention area thinking I could find her. This was pre-cell phone day era. There's nothing but blue jackets all over this place. And I thought I was going to be able to find her. It was, I walked around there for about a half hour and I go, forget it. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
There's no way.
You didn't just start yelling, Jessica.
No, but it was pretty comical. If you'd have seen me walking around there, and especially as soon as I got out of the car and I go, what the heck am I thinking here?
That's funny.
Anywho, all right. Well, let's get into some sports talk. We'll talk a little Michigan with the Lions coming off a bye. We'll see what kind of potpourri we can get into right after this. All right, guys, let's jump right into college football. I mean, being a college football fan, and especially a Michigan fan like us, this 2 weeks from the bye and following social media has been insanity. I mean, I've been one of those people that wanted to just go, I'm going to just unsubscribe. I just can't hardly take it anymore. There was so much misinformation. And we're recording this on Monday night. And apparently the latest is the NCAA couldn't find anything pinning Harbaugh to knowing anything that was going on illegally. Is that a fair statement where we're at right now?
It sounds like. And, the president of Michigan basically came out and said, when they were saying that the Big Ten might suspend Harbaugh, the Big Ten might come down with some sort of, penalty on Harbaugh. The president of Michigan basically came out and said, we're prepared to fight. Like they don't think there's any evidence. They believe Harbaugh because he said he didn't know, so almost like a legal battle was going to ensue if the Big Ten tried to suspend Jim Harbaugh is what it sounded like. So then the Big Ten, again, this is all like reports.
Exactly.
Who knows what's actually, but this is all reports that the Big Ten basically said it's an NCAA thing. The Big Ten was like, we've got nothing. NCAA, it's with you. And then kind of what you said, Ted, the NCAA was like, we're not seeing anything that clearly points to Jim Harbaugh knew this was going on. Sounds like kind of like what you were saying off air. It's like a rogue staffer. This Connor Stallions dude was basically just a maniac. But now there's even more reports coming out earlier today. Again, just reports, allegations, who knows? An ex-Big Ten staffer is how it's labeled. So what does that mean? Could it be Connor Stallions? Could it be Mel Tucker? Who knows what it could be? Provided documents that other Big Ten schools, coaches, programs were basically colluding against Michigan, and they were giving each other all their notes about Michigan signs, about their tendencies, about their plays, all that kind of stuff to try and beat them. So now it's like trying to say whatever you're saying Michigan was doing wrong, all these other Big Ten schools were doing the same thing against Michigan. And it's just honestly just becoming kind of like what you said. It's just getting ridiculous because it's all allegations. It's all speculation. We don't really know anything. It's just, it's kind of showing the power of social media nowadays. It doesn't matter like anything that's true, factual, put it out there. And if it's something about Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, it's going to spread like wildfire. So who knows? Right now, it sounds like maybe nothing's going to happen, at least immediately. So
I love the rogue staffer report. I mean, let's just start with Connor Stallions. The reason I salute that guy is because, he's the type of guy, if it was like wartime, you get him, you don't even torture him. You just kill him because you're not getting anything from him. You might as well just kill him. You're not waterboarding's going to do nothing. As for the whole rogue thing, I mean, I can't in one side of my mouth say, "Oh, Pat Fitzgerald knows everything about this hazing scandal," and then this whole thing with Harbaugh. So it's like I think Harbaugh knew it. Whether I don't think it matters. I don't give a shit whether he knew or not. I think the whole thing is BS anyway. And I think a lot of schools do things like this or similar to it, or they cheat in other ways. Everybody cheats, man. Like Frank Tarkanian used to say, everybody cheats. So whether that's important or not, I don't really care. The one thing I will point out, and it's funny, it's good to hear that the Big Ten has kind of picked the right side of this. I'm so sick of the NCAA. Every time there's a tough decision, they put the pressure on the conferences. When there's the easy slam dunk ones, man, they'll parade around and they'll do those ones. But when it's COVID or when it's something like a midseason with your top team, like a Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, they want nothing to do with it. They'll do their due processing. So I'm glad to hear that the Big Ten is kind of being smartly saying, no, we're going to let this process play out. This is the NCAA's job. We're going to let them do it. One thing there's been so much news, man. Every time we record, there's so many things to hit on. I love the idea of this Big Ten conference call where, they're all on the phone. All right, guys, see you next week. And then as soon as Jim Harbaugh hops off, wait, everybody stay.
Right.
We got to talk about this. I mean, what a joke.
So
That
what,
is-
dude? Do all the
fucking
coaches
joke.
have like a group text, but Jim Harbaugh's not in it? They're like, hey, when Jim hops off, everyone stay
like-
on.
I mean, that really must have been what it was, or like an email. They sent an email out, and the one that Jim is not on, it's like a dummy email or something. I mean, what are we doing? Such a joke. Why do you think these coaches want this action to be taken now? Because guys like James Franklin, guys like Ryan Day, and I've always said I like Ryan Day. It just came out today that the whole private investigation thing probably wasn't true. I never really believed that. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow it'll come out that it was true. I don't know.
Right.
Most recent news that
Every
wasn't
day's
true.
different.
Yep.
It's guys like that, because Ryan Day's looking at Michigan going, oh God, I'm going to lose to Michigan for the third straight year. James Franklin's looking another year, I'm going to lose to Michigan. Another year, I'm going to lose to both Michigan and Ohio State. They want them out. They're running out of answers. I don't blame them, man. I mean, they're dead men walking. I would probably do the same thing. If your back's against the wall, you're at war. You got to come up with some answers to right the ship. So I don't blame them, man. But how they're going about doing it, these private conference calls, you got Purdue's head coach who's been a coach for a drink of water.
What a dick.
I mean, literally a
Right.
dead man. As soon as everything leading up to that game where he's making the comments, quote unquote, for a fact, they've had personnel spying on quote unquote a number of our games. As soon as you read that quote, this guy ain't the guy. He's not the guy, man. He's a dead man walking. He's lost before he ever came into this conference. Jeff Brom, everything he built, it's got to be gone.
Yeah.
What a joke. That whole handshake. Real quick, let's make a note right here. What'd you guys make of that handshake?
It was
If
handshake.
Right. If I'm being honest, it's I think I tweeted out, it's the epitome of what's going on today with like how people will get on Twitter and talk trash, but then if they have the chance in person, they shy away. And I'm not saying that he should have like picked a fight with Harbaugh, but if you're going to talk all that trash, what you're talking about, Jared, and then you have a chance in the handshake after you just got boat raced on the field. I mean, Purdue wasn't even in the same class as Michigan. Shake Harbaugh's hand and say what you need to say to him.
Either say what you meant or apologize. One or the two,
apologize, right? Straight, like level the playing field. Instead, he basically sprinted by him, and you even see Harbaugh almost like kind of look back, and then Harbaugh doesn't care. He does whatever he wants. But it was just like, what was that? Like you said, Jared, I almost don't know how, as a player, you can get behind a coach like that who,
And on the field, man, they were lost. It's like that Donovan Edwards big play. It's like everyone's on TV. They literally don't have anybody covering Donovan Edwards. I mean, mental errors on mental errors for Purdue.
Right.
They got a running back who's like fumbled the ball 13 times or something like that this year. It's like, what's going on over there? One thing I do want to make note of, and it's kind of funny how we hear the national media, how it's like it's going back and forth on Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Remember leading up to this scandal, how it was like, well, Michigan's played nobody. They played nobody. Let me know when they play somebody real. Like these wins are meaningless. Now you got guys, and I love Stephen A. Smith. I'm just picking him out because he's the one that really went viral with his take on Michigan. Basically, he went out and said, how is the NCAA and the Big Ten going to let this happen when they make the college football playoff? And everyone's going to be knowing how Michigan got there. How they got there was cheating, basically, is what he was saying. Michigan hasn't played anybody yet. The scandal broke, and I tweeted this at the perfect time, before we played Penn State, right before we played Ohio State. So when Michigan rolls on to the national championship, there's no asterisks. You can't claim there's an asterisk and in the other side of your mouth say, oh, well, they played nobody those first 8 games. It's like they're all scrubs. It's funny how the tide has turned now. Oh, we only won those games now because we cheated. Right. It's like, what are we've now been out the quote unquote signal stealer the last 2 weeks. The defense looks just as damn good as they were. The offense is still putting up the same amount of points as they were. They look just as good. Ohio State looks just as shitty. Penn State looks just as shitty. I cannot wait for this weekend, man. I can't wait for the rest of the season. This is a perfect dream scenario. You guys should feel no guilt about the rest of the way of us winning these games because this broke right before the real critical part of the schedule came. So I'm all for it, man. Who cares? A lot of people are saying, oh, the distraction. No, I'm glad this came out now because we can put it to bed on the field and not through this media narrative BS that we've been kind of dealing with these last 4 weeks.
Yep.
Good take. That really was.
Yeah. And I think, talking about on the field, I don't know if, they were coming off a bye. So, sometimes there's a little bit of rust after a bye, all the stuff going that we're talking about off the field, if they were actually maybe a little distracted, but I mean, people were acting like JJ McCarthy was missing throws left and right. Now, yes, he did miss a few throws that he had been making the rest of the season for sure. But I don't know about you guys, but listening to Todd Blackledge, who is the color guy on the game for NBC, he was just talking about McCarthy like he was missing every throw, like he was like some JV quarterback or something. And yeah, not to like make comparisons with Corunna, but like if there's one thing I'm not worried about with Michigan, it's McCarthy this year. Last year maybe kind of being his first year as the starter, you wondered like if it was going to all come together. But like you were talking about with the athletes Corunna has, like they're at a really high level right now. I really don't think McCarthy will be the reason they lose games. If he misses a throw here or there, okay, that happens, incomplete passes. But a couple of those throws that he was missing were still hitting receivers in the hands. And it's like, you got to make those catches if you can't expect perfect throws.
Well, yeah, I agree with what they were saying. I mean, you look at it, he was 24 of 37, 335.
Here's the thing though. He's graded on a different scale. I mean, he's literally the Heisman front runner right now. It's the Heisman front runner. So it's like you almost have anything outside of playing a perfect game is going to get. It's kind of surprising when he misses a throw.
He set the bar up this high.
Yeah. So I'll be honest. The one thing that is concerning to me, and we saw it last year against Penn State, especially we rushed for 418 yards against them. This has been kind of the talking point. The running game really has not been quite as dominant this year, and I don't really necessarily put it on any one thing or another thing. I think it just. Corum came back from injury. I mean, watching Corum last year, it was the best running back I think I've ever seen in college. He was so goddamn good. He couldn't be tackled in a phone booth, man. He's still very, 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 very good this year. But I just think there's maybe a little bit of a drop. And I think he still can get back to that form that he was in. But I think that's kind of why we're seeing the lack of production from the running game. It's just Corum was at such an elite level last year that it's just hard to kind of mimic that this season, is my opinion.
And it seems like, I don't know if the offensive line, which is still really good, maybe they're not quite up to the level as last year's. They were opening up holes that, Jared, you could have ran through and gained 100 yards. I mean, I think we're seeing that Donovan Edwards is a fantastic player, but as far as like, Corum can make guys miss. Corum can break tackles. Corum can make moves, in the hole and Edwards is a little more of like a hit the hole and use his speed. And if there's not a hole, if he's not about to like juke some guy like a Barry Sanders or truck someone over like Derrick Henry or something like that. So I don't know if it's an offensive line thing, but I'm kind of with you. The running game, I'm not like concerned because you still have two really good running backs, and even Mullings, the third string running back, has looked pretty good too.
He looks good. Yeah.
But we've been waiting for that like breakout game where Edwards busts 2 60-yard runs and Corum does too. And we haven't seen it. So now we're 8 games into the season or 9 games into the season. So it's kind of like, when is that going to happen? Maybe they don't need it this year. Maybe the focus of the offense is McCarthy. Maybe that's part of it. So
I'd say now's the time, Penn State and Ohio State on the horizon. Now's the time.
I can't wait to play Penn State, man. I'm licking my chops on that one.
Are you glad it's a noon game and not a night game whiteout?
You know what? I was actually going to say this. I hate when Michigan plays night games. I really do. I like waiting. It's like I almost didn't want to watch this game at this point, like this last week against Purdue. Michigan is a noon kick. That's what they've always been. That's what they always should be. Because even if it's a lackluster college football weekend, you can always count that noon kick. That's a great game you're gonna be able to watch. Then there's usually the great game at night. But when Michigan plays at night, now it's like I'm flipping back and forth between USC, Washington, and you can't quite watch it with the same set of eyes that you would at a noon kick. In my opinion, Michigan should always be a noon kick, and I think that's a Big Ten as a whole. That's why I love the Fox Big Ten kickoff. Yeah. You always can count that big game being at noon.
I do like the fact they're playing noon this week, and I'm glad Corunna's playing Friday and not Saturday. That's all I can say. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that game. Hey, I got one final comment back to the whole scandal thing. If the Big Ten would have come down with a major type of suspension, I was pretty furious when I thought it might be heading that way.
Yeah,
I was going to say, Michigan, it's time to be your own Notre Dame. Get the hell out of that stupid league. Do your own thing. So I'm glad.
I would have loved that.
I saw some people saying that if something like that happened, it might be something that pushes Michigan to go independent, because
Yeah.
they have enough money, they have enough of a following, they could do it for sure, just like Notre Dame. And the Big Ten would not want to lose Michigan. So
No way.
But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I almost kind of like, I don't want to leave. That you're almost giving them what they want. It's like, I love
Right.
bludgeoning Ohio State, love bludgeoning Penn State, love bludgeoning Michigan State. I mean, this was the norm. This is the new norm. As long as Harbaugh's there, as long as we're not getting sanctioned out of our ass, this is the new norm. As long as Urban Meyer doesn't come back into the conference, this is what we can expect for years to come.
Do you guys have any concern at all that this whole contract thing keeps dragging out and not getting finalized? What's going on?
I hope it's just because this investigation is going on. I really hope that's what it is, because I'm kind of the same thing. Like, even they're tweeting out support for Harbaugh and saying all this stuff. Then it's kind of like, then sign him.
Sign it.
Just give him the deal. But
I don't know. I think you got to wait just for the optics of it. Especially the more and more this plays out. I think Michigan has some aces up their sleeve. With just kind of, it's apparently, like you mentioned earlier, Matt, like moles from other schools are coming out now, almost in like support of Michigan. So I think they're just kind of waiting, and I don't blame them for that. And in my opinion, it's let's get through this investigation, let's get through this year clean, and let's get Harbaugh figured out right after that.
Yeah. On the other side of the coin, Michigan State had the whole Mel Tucker thing. Finally got a win for Harlan Barnett. It wasn't pretty, 20-17 over Nebraska. A couple teams not very good, but at least they got the W. I'm not sure what much else is going to come out of this season and what they're going to do. I mean, is Urban Meyer really still in the possibility? I mean, again, it's social media. What do you believe?
That's another thing.
Don't you believe?
Where the story changes every day. You hear about it. Oh, he's on campus. No, he's not. Oh, he's like about to sign a contract. Oh, he's not. Right. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I've been saying that I think it's a lot more real of a possibility than anybody ever gave it credit to be.
Right.
But until I literally see that Photoshop of him wearing that Michigan State windbreaker in person, I'm not going to believe it.
I'm not hearing any other names. That's the other thing, really, of any seriousness.
Yeah, unless kind of like the Harbaugh deal, unless they're just going to let this season finish out.
Yeah.
And then they'll address the coach. I just would be, and this isn't taking a shot at Michigan State, because like you've said, Ted, it is a good university, good sports program, everything. Right. I just would be very surprised if what brings Urban Meyer out of retirement away from his deal with Fox is Michigan State football, with where they're at right now, with USC, Oregon, Washington coming into the Big Ten, with his Buckeyes also in the Big Ten, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin. It's just, would he really come back for Michigan State?
It would answer the debate of Michigan State. They always say they're this national program and they can compete with the big boys. If they went out and got Urban Meyer, I think you got to agree with it. Like, yeah, this is a program that they put their money where their mouth is. Right. So it would be fun to see, man. That would be so fun. I'm rooting for it. I really am.
It'd be fun because it'd either go one of two ways. It either, it'd work and Michigan State would be good. So we'd have a lot of great matchups again.
Yeah.
Or it'd be an absolute train wreck, which would also be cool to see.
Yep. No lose, right? No lose situation. All right. Well, a couple other quickies. It was sad to see Bobby Knight passed away at 83. Whether you like Bob Knight or not, the guy was a heck of a successful coach in Indiana. Yeah, legend. There's not many you can throw the word legend on, and he definitely was a legend. Yeah. Very controversial, but he was from my era, and it was a little different time. There's only one guy pretty much nowadays that has any of the Bobby Knight mentality. I'm going to say Izzo. I mean, there's not many coaches that coach that way anymore.
Izzo wasn't up to what Knight used to do either. But
right.
The one thing about Knight that I loved was this video that always circulated even before he passed away. But him talking about Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan became who he was. I mean, I can watch that video on repeat, man. That's awesome. What a claim to fame that really would be. I saw that guy and I knew what he was going to be before anybody else. I mean, it really just explains how smart he was as a basketball coach, like in that 1 minute clip.
Yeah, he really was. Also, before we wrap it up, Jared, of course, you're working for Bally, and the Pistons are part of the stable there. Off to a 2-5 start. I still think they have a pretty good young core, but they got to kind of figure out maybe a few things right now. And you don't want to fall too far behind early in the season. Same
Right.
thing happened last year. You know, I'm a little concerned about there might be another year or two away yet.
I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely think a year or two away from being a real contender. I think we wondered with Monty Williams coming in, Cade Cunningham coming off his injury, looking good. Like, was this going to be a year they could sneak in to the playoffs as like an 8 or 7 seed? But right now it's not looking like it. And, you know, the talent is there, and Monty Williams is a good coach. He's a proven coach in the NBA, but you got to figure out the pieces. You can't just have some good young talent and think, oh, we're going to be in the playoffs. Like, you have to have the right guys and the right, you know, rotations and everything. And it doesn't seem like they have that right now. So,
yeah. And the thing that, they're not. You're 100% right, Matt. They're not there yet. I think you might be right, Ted. There might be a year or two away from that still.
Right.
It's hard to put together a winning team in the NBA, like a true championship contending team.
well,
NBA,
and if you're trying to do it through the draft, if you're not doing it through just throwing money
Great
at Kevin
point.
Durant, throw money at Devin Booker. Like, if you're trying to build a team, that's tough.
Great point. I mean, the Thunder have been building for what feels like forever. They really got something cooking, but even then, it's like still like, man, we still got to see it for a couple more years before we really can say they're championship contenders. In the positive side, though, I will say, like, Cade Cunningham, he's been great.
Yep.
He's everything we've hoped he's going to be. We saw it his rookie year. He's doing the same thing this year. I mean, we talk about this guy in the draft, Asar Thompson. I mean, he had 5 blocks in his NBA debut as like an 18-year-old. I mean, the guy is just an elite athlete. And Jalen Duren has been very good too, but he's been banged up the last few games. But he's been good when he's been playing. And I think Monty Williams really, you can notice a difference in this team. I really do think that they're a different team with him coaching. I think they've been a lot more tougher defensively. The players seem to kind of rally around him a little bit more than what they did in the past. So I think that was a good hire. It's just hard to sit there and be all, you know, roses when, I mean, it's a 2-5 team at the end of the day. So, I don't know. Still ways away from being that really true.
Yeah, and they're going to have a hard time, I think, selling tickets. You know, there'll be some reasonable tickets to be sold down there, but I think the Red Wings will finish it up with them. This is a team that I think Steve Yzerman finally has a lot of the pieces in place. They're off to a good start, and that's going to be a hard ticket to come by, is at LCA down there and to future Red Wing games. I think
they are always hard to come by, even when they weren't a playoff team. The first couple of years I've been down there living, I mean, it's always packed. It's always packed. I've heard LCA is one of the top tier kind of, they call it barns, hockey rinks. That's out there. It is awesome, man. When that ice is there, it's a great spot. The way LCA is kind of set up, it's almost like you're looking down on the ice. It's really, really sweet. But yeah, they got a hell of a team. I mean, the big trade they made this offseason was for Alex DeBrincat, and I mean, he came out like
on fire,
truly on fire. Him and Dylan Lark, I think through 5 or 6 games or whatever it was, were first and third in total points in the NHL. They've cooled off a little bit, but I think it's for sure a playoff team. I mean, once you get in the playoffs in the NHL, it's kind of like you see what happens. So
anything can happen for sure. So
that's when they brought Yzerman back to do the rebuild, it felt like it was just a matter of time. You know, sometimes, you know, with what's going on with the Tigers, say, or even with the Pistons or whatever, you know, you just don't know if it's ever going to happen. With Yzerman, it just felt like, give him the few years to make a couple trades, like you said, Jared, a couple draft picks, and they're going to figure it out. And it's just, it needs to happen. The Red Wings not being in the playoffs is just like, it doesn't make sense. They need to get back in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Well, we might as well finish then with the D4, because you brought up the Tigers. Seeing things about AJ sold his condo or something and might be moving on. Is that just rumors?
I don't know. In my opinion, I think it's nothing. I saw somebody tweet that it was nothing. I don't know. I saw a couple headlines on that. I'm not really that informed on it.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean,
this guy, Avi Baez opted into his 4-year, $98 million extension. So,
oh boy,
I did see that. I mean, hey, we ended the season on a positive note with the Tigers, man. We don't gotta drudge it back down. We knew this day was coming with Baez, and I'm not worried about Hinch. I think he's here to stay. I think he sees something that Scott Harris is building. So, no, I'm not reading too much into those tea leaves.
Well, the Rangers showed that you can turn it around pretty quick if you get the right player or two on the team. I mean, Seager, what a stud shortstop he is, huh?
I mean, a lot of teams, the Diamondbacks were one of the worst teams in the league a few years ago. The Rays seem to do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just wild that the Tigers have not been able to figure it out for so long.
They're
But
close. They are close, I think.
they're close.
We'll see.
They need some pitching, though. Man.
Yes.
I mean,
They should
do.
get healthy, man. I mean, I think they got
Right.
pitching. It's just these guys. We haven't seen these guys.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's end it on that note, fellas. This has been episode 288 of the 3 Point Podcast presented by the Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Make sure you sign up for a 2024 membership. You can get up to 15% off. Get yourself healthy and in shape. For more details, go to memorialhealthcare.org. Also want to thank our local partners, AZee Branding Solutions. By the way, I think it's dropping sometime this week, my special appearance on their podcast.
I thought that was supposed to be last week.
This has
No,
been
they
getting
keep
teased for like 3 months, man.
I know. I don't know if I should tease it because I probably am going to come off looking like a fool, but we shall see. AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, and Rivals Taphouse and Grille. Don't forget our Z92.5 Castle Game of the Week. It's a D5 Regional Championship. Macomb Lutheran North's Mustangs at Corunna Cavaliers 11-0. Game will be on Z92.5 and also simulcast on the NFHS Video Network. And make sure you give us a follow at 3 Point Pod. And also make sure you mention that you enjoy this program to our sponsors. If you're ever in any of their businesses, tell them that you heard their ad and their name on our podcast. They'd appreciate it, and we'd appreciate it.
One thing I'll just throw a shout out about one of our sponsors. I saw AZee is basically putting up a Corunna athletic shop for this football team as they're making a run, and a portion of the proceeds is going to the Corunna Athletic Fund. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah,
I saw they posted the district championship sweatshirts. I mean, like next week they're gonna have to do regional championship sweatshirts, and then we'll just keep it going. So keep your eye out for all that merch coming.
Whatever it takes, and they've hooked us up with Corunna's Football Town T-shirts too. So,
oh yeah.
Good sponsors. Well, that's it. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks for listening.